Now, on Tuesday, news agencies reported that a team from the Income Tax Department was conducting a survey at the British broadcaster BBC's offices in India. This essentially comes weeks after the release of a documentary that has become very controversial, critical of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. It was blocked by the government in India. The raids were then confirmed by a Bharatiya Janata Party spokesperson at a press conference who said that the Income Tax Department must be allowed to do its work. He stated that if the BBC has done no wrong, it should not be scared. He also said that the BBC indulges in anti-India propaganda, and he said that it should not, and I quote, spew venom. Now, before I come to what the income tax officials and others have been indicating and other spokespersons have been saying, this immediately sparked off a major furor, and it did become international headlines everywhere. You had a number of journalistic organizations coming forward. For example, the Press Club of India, which said it is deeply concerned by the ruling government's actions. The Press Club of India said that the surveys were part of a series of attacks on the media by government agencies, and the Press Club went on to say, "We are deeply concerned and distressed that such an action on an international broadcasting network will damage the reputation and image of India as the largest democracy in the world." The Press Club said, "We appeal to the government to restrain its agencies from misusing their powers in order to intimidate the media and to put curbs on the freedom of the press." Similar sort of statements were made by the Editors Guild and by other bodies, who said that this is a trend that undermines constitutional democracy. The Guild demands that great care and sensitivity be shown in all such investigations so as not to undermine the rights of journalists and media organizations. It also said that the investigation should not degenerate into, quote, instruments of harassment to intimidate independent media. Now, officials have come and said that, hey, none of this is happening. The BBC is essentially accused of tax evasion, and that the survey is being carried out to investigate issues related to international taxation and to transfer pricing of BBC subsidiary companies. Officials also indicated, a lot of this was off the record, that the BBC had been served notices in the past, but was, and I quote, defiant and non-compliant, and had significantly diverted its profits. A lot of this also came from spokespeople of the government. They came and they said all of this on television. In other words, all of this was essentially accusing the BBC of what these sources or these spokespeople were calling financial crimes of some sort or the other. The opposition immediately got into all of this, condemning the surveys, calling it an intimidation tactic. And on the accusations of financial fraud or financial irregularities, this is what Judy Ginsburg, the president for the Committee to Protect Journalists, said. She said, "We are seeing increasing use of accusations of financial wrongdoing as a way to target journalists globally." She had a threat of how this is happening in many countries around the world, but she went on to say, "The use of financial misconduct charges allows countries to argue that they are not targeting news outlets and journalists for their reporting, but it is no coincidence that this growing form of intimidation almost exclusively targets news providers exposing wrongdoing." Okay, so this is likely to become a storm which could rage for a while. On one side, you're getting very clear statements coming from the government of India, from the income tax authorities. They're not yet said what has been found in these surveys, so presumably an official statement will come after that. But certainly spokespeople of the BJP and its supporters have been very clear as to where they think the BBC has gone wrong, and saying you need to fight this out in the courts of law and whatever else needs to be done. The spokesperson at the American Secretary of State's Department was actually asked this very specific question. This essentially is what he said.
Sean, we're aware of the search of the BBC offices in Delhi by Indian tax authorities. I would need to refer you to Indian authorities for the details of this search. We continue to highlight the importance of freedom of expression and freedom of religion or belief as human rights that contribute to strengthening democracies around the world. It has strengthened this democracy here in this country. It has strengthened India's democracy. These universal rights are the bedrock of democracies around the world.